3 creepy true horror stories animated. Story 1, The Haunted Cabin in the Woods. It was the summer of 2020 when 4 friends Sarah, Jake, Emily, and Mark decided to spend a weekend at an old cabin in the woods. They had rented the place online, eager for a secluded getaway. The cabin was charming, albeit a bit run down, nestled deep in the forest and miles away from the nearest town. The first day was uneventful. They explored the area, swam in the nearby lake, and enjoyed a barbecue dinner as the sun set. That night, as they sat around the fire, they shared ghost stories, laughing at the thought of anything creepy happening to them. As the fire died down, they decided to head inside and call it a night. The cabin had 2 bedrooms, so they paired up Sarah with Emily and Jake with Mark. The girls took the room upstairs, while the guys stayed on the ground floor. Around midnight, Emily woke up to the sound of soft footsteps outside their door. She thought it was Jake or Mark, but when she opened the door, no one was there. She shrugged it off as her imagination and went back to bed. The next morning, they found strange symbols carved into the wooden posts on the porch. They were crude, almost primitive, and none of them could make sense of them. Jake joked that it was probably some prank played by the previous renters. That night, things took a darker turn. Emily woke up again, this time to a soft whispering sound. She couldn't make out the words, but it felt like it was coming from inside the room. She nudged Sarah awake, and they both listened in terror. The whispering grew louder and more frantic, but there was no one else in the room. Downstairs, Jake and Mark were experiencing their own nightmare. They heard banging sounds coming from the kitchen. When they went to investigate, they found all the cabinets and drawers wide open, with kitchen utensils scattered all over the floor. They decided to pack up and leave the next morning. As they were getting ready, Sarah found an old diary hidden under a loose floorboard in their room. The diary belonged to a girl named Abigail, who had lived in the cabin with her family decades ago. The last entry was disturbing. Abigail wrote about strange figures appearing at night and voices that whispered in her ear. Feeling unnerved, they hastened their departure. As they drove away, Sarah noticed a figure standing at the edge of the forest, watching them. It was a young girl in an old-fashioned dress. When she looked back again, the girl was gone. The friends never returned to the cabin and vowed to stick to more conventional vacations. The memory of that eerie weekend remained with them, a reminder of the unseen horrors lurking in the most unexpected places. Story 2, The Disappearing Hitchhiker. In the winter of 2018, Alex was driving home late at night after visiting his parents. The roads were slick with ice, and a thick fog had settled in, reducing visibility. He drove cautiously, his headlights cutting through the mist. As he rounded a bend, he saw a figure standing by the side of the road, hitchhiking. It was a young woman, drenched from the rain and shivering in a thin coat. Feeling sympathetic, Alex pulled over and offered her a ride. She got in without a word, her eyes downcast. Alex tried to make small talk, but she only responded with nods and brief answers. Her silence was unsettling, but he attributed it to her being cold and tired. After a few minutes, she asked him to drop her off at a specific address in town. As they neared the destination, she finally spoke more, thanking him for his kindness and mentioning that her name was Lily. When they arrived, Alex turned to say goodbye, but she was gone. The passenger seat was empty, and there was no sign of her anywhere. Confused and a bit shaken, he got out of the car and knocked on the door of the house she had mentioned. An elderly woman answered, and Alex explained what had happened. The woman's face turned pale, and she invited him inside. She showed him a photo of a young woman. It was Lily. She explained that Lily was her daughter who had died in a car accident on that very road 10 years ago. Alex felt a chill run down his spine. The woman told him that every year on the anniversary of her death, people reported seeing Lily hitchhiking, always disappearing before reaching her destination. Haunted by the experience, Alex never drove that road again at night. The encounter left him questioning the thin veil between the living and the dead and the restless spirits that seek closure. Story 3, The Ghostly Roommate. It was fall of 2019 when Megan moved into a new apartment in a historic building downtown. She was thrilled with the place's high ceilings, large windows, and a charming old-world feel. She quickly settled in, decorating the space and making it her own. Her new roommate, Laura, seemed nice enough. They got along well, and everything seemed perfect. However, Megan began to notice strange things happening around the apartment. Items would go missing and then reappear in odd places, and she often felt a cold breeze despite all the windows being closed. One night, Megan woke up to the sound of whispering coming from the living room. She assumed it was Laura on the phone, but when she checked, the room was empty. The whispers stopped as soon as she entered the room. As the weeks went by, the disturbances became more frequent. Lights would flicker, doors would open and close on their own, and she constantly felt like she was being watched. Megan confided in Laura, who admitted that she had experienced similar things but didn't want to scare her. Determined to find out what was happening, they decided to do some research on the building. They discovered that a woman named Margaret had lived in their apartment decades ago. She had been found dead under mysterious circumstances, and her spirit was rumored to haunt the place. One night, they decided to hold a séance to try to communicate with Margaret. As they sat in the dark, holding hands and calling out to her spirit, the temperature in the room dropped sharply. A faint glow appeared in the corner, and they heard a soft, mournful voice. The voice belonged to Margaret. She told them that she couldn't rest because she had been murdered by her lover, who had gotten away with it. She needed someone to know the truth and help her find peace. After the séance, Megan and Laura contacted the local historical society and shared their findings. The society conducted a thorough investigation, and with their help, the case was reopened. Eventually, new evidence was uncovered, and the truth about Margaret's death came to light. With her story finally told, the disturbances in the apartment stopped. Megan and Laura felt a sense of relief, knowing they had helped a restless spirit find peace. However, the experience left them both more aware of the unseen world around them and the souls that linger, waiting for their stories to be told.